Hey guys, we're home. I'm back to Lisbon. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. If you're new here, my name is Chelsea, and in today's video I'm gonna tell you all things Interrail, all the tips and some of the mistakes I made and my budget, as well as the apps that you can possibly download to make your trip a little bit easier. So if you're new here and you haven't watched my Interrail journey, I went interrailing by myself for 30 days. I actually did you a favor and I made an Interrail diaries playlist, so you can go check it out and you can follow along the journey from the moment I left Lisbon to every single destination and all the people I met. It was really fun, so if you haven't watched that, definitely go check it out. You're gonna love it. I really hope this video is helpful. I'm gonna divide the video into chapters, so if you have just one specific topic that you want to go, definitely check below the chapter section. If you don't and you want to watch the whole video, I love you. So just to situate you guys, if you're new here and you haven't watched the previous vlogs, I went interrailing by myself in the month of June, and I think that's a very important thing to share because the budget and everything else will be influenced by the time that you go on your Interrail trip. I went in June because that was better for me, and I know it's peak season, so definitely keep that in mind when you're planning, and I'll talk about it a little bit more when I talk about the budget and accommodation and planning and stuff like that. But I just want to tell you guys, like situate you guys a little bit. I started in Lisbon. I went to Berlin. From Lisbon to Berlin, I actually took a plane, and then I did the Interrail trains from Berlin all the way till Italy. I did Berlin, Prague, Budapest, Venice, Florence, and Milan. So that was 6 destinations. Starting with planning, I think it's very important for you guys to plan this trip. I decided that I wanted to go on interrailing actually 3 years ago, but things were just getting in the way and I just didn't have the money and a lot of things were going on. So in December of 2023, which was 6 months prior to my trip, I decided that I wanted to do Interrail. So it's very important for you guys to have more of like a time period for you guys to prepare. If you have the money, well, you can go tomorrow, but I honestly needed like at least 6 months kind of like save, start paying things in advance, because that way I was actually saving a little bit more, especially because I was going interrailing during June, which is peak season, and so things were a little bit expensive. If you have like a specific day, like your first day of your Interrail journey, that way you can start planning accordingly. You can start like booking the accommodations. You can maybe like look for flights if that's your situation. Planning of your trip, the budget, the accommodation, and everything else will depend a lot on the season that you're going. If you're going on peak season, definitely you need way more planning than if you go in off season, especially because the hostels are usually very packed during summer, June, July, August, a little bit of September, and off seasons are usually the ones that are more chilled. You can like just book a hostel, the prices are cheaper and everything. After deciding that I was going to do in June of 2024, the first thing that I did was look for flights from Lisbon. I knew for sure that I didn't want to start my journey by train in Lisbon all the way till Berlin, because that would take so many days. You have to start looking for your itinerary. Like, I know most people when doing Interrail, they kind of like go it's more of like a spontaneous trip, but for me that was not the case. I'm such a planner, so I have to know when I'm gonna do something, and so after deciding that I wanted to do in June, I started looking for the best itinerary for me and like the places that I was more interested in visiting. It doesn't have to be so specific because again, it's 6 months prior to your trip, so you don't know much, but it's very important to at least have your first destination. For me, it was Berlin. I was obsessed with Berlin. It was good that I had that in mind right away because in December, January, I started looking for flights from Lisbon to Berlin. That way you can actually save a little bit if you have like your first destination and you're choose to go by plane, you can like pay your plane ticket in advance, so it's gonna be a little bit cheaper. I live in Europe, so plane tickets aren't that expensive comparing like if you come from the US or if you come from another continent. But definitely it's very important for you guys to have one specific destination where you're gonna start your journey. That way you can like pay for the plane ticket right away, and that way you can like save a little bit. I don't know. But if your first destination is quite like close to your hometown or where you live, then you can just go by train and not worry about a plane ticket or anything. When it comes to the actual Interrail ticket, the actual pass for the trains for the actual journey, you can buy in advance or you can buy close to your trip. I personally bought like a week before my trip just because the price of the Interrail ticket is like fixed. They don't sell out, so they will always be available. So for me, that was not a priority. Again, like I said, like I was like saving money, and in 6 months I had to pay for things that were way more important, and then I knew that it would like the prices would go up. And so the Interrail ticket, it doesn't usually like change the price. If it does, it's because they have a discount, which is cool. And even if you buy like 6 months in advance, even if you buy like a year in advance, it doesn't change anything. And I think the cool thing about the Interrail ticket, besides the fact that you can buy like literally on the day, your ticket is only valid when you actually mark your first travel day, which is really cool. So that's the cool thing about it. So I would advise you to kind of like worry about other stuff like accommodation and like plane tickets if that applies to you. If you're going with friends or like with other people and it's not just you, maybe you don't have to plan as much, because honestly when you're with friends, everything is like a little bit more flexible. You guys can like also like figure that out. But if you're by yourself, I would probably advise to kind of like plan things in advance. So I don't want to come off as like a control freak, even though I am. Plan in advance. Okay, before we move on into accommodation, I actually want to talk a little bit about the Interrail ticket. I got the global pass. It really depends on like how you want to plan, how long is your trip. For me, I had 6 destinations. In Italy, I actually went from one city to another by bus, which was cheaper, and I think it was like €5. I did the 5-day global pass. I would advise you guys to definitely take the seat reservation seriously, especially if you go on overnight trains. If you go on like daily trains and it says like it's not required, it's chilled. But if it says it's required to have like a seat reservation, definitely make the seat reservation, guys, in advance. I know I'm talking a lot about like planning in advance, but when it comes to the seat reservations, it's serious. Take that seriously. I honestly didn't do my seat reservations at the beginning of the trip because I heard a lot on TikTok and like on YouTube that, oh, you can like just pass by, it's not that deep. And it wasn't that deep, but like you end up literally sitting at the train hallway. Is it a hallway? I don't know, but like it's very uncomfortable. I wouldn't advise you guys to do that. If you take anything from this video, make sure to have your seat reservation. Always mark your travel days. It's very important because even though you don't have a specific place to kind of like scan your ticket, you will always have someone at the train asking for the ticket. And so definitely mark your days, because that way you're gonna have like the ticket ready. When it comes to my actual ticket, I bought it online and I used the mobile version, which is the app. You have to download it in order to have your ticket there. I'm sure you can also have the physical copy, but you have to pay like €10 or something for them to send to your address. Honestly, I just chose to not like pay the extra €10 because I always have my phone. Okay, moving on to accommodation, which was the most stressful part. There are 2 options that I am familiar with. I'm sure there are other options, but because I'm not familiar with them, I've never tried them, I'm definitely not gonna recommend them. Hostels or Airbnb room. You can also stay in Airbnbs. You can rent the whole place. It depends on your budget, and it also depends on the destinations, because some destinations, the accommodations are a little bit cheaper than others. Hostels is basically, if you don't know what hostels are, it's like a room full of beds and you're just renting one bed. That's the best explanation for it. So basically you're sharing the room with other people. I personally think that hostels are the best way to meet people and have the interrail experience of like just meeting other people, other backpackers. It's always a good time. I never had, okay, I actually had one. I had one experience, but it wasn't much of a big deal. The person was just naked and he wasn't covered, which is fine, but it's like, but honestly, I absolutely love hostels. Hostels are the best way to meet people, especially if you're an extrovert, if you're open to meeting new people, if you want the actual interrail experience of like just exploring the city with strangers. I think hostels are the best. If you decide to stay in a hostel, definitely download Hostel World. I have talked about Hostel World before. Hostel World is basically booking.com but for hostels, and you get the vibe from every hostel. There's a rating and everything else, and you can also choose like how many people you want to share the room with, if you want to share with like girls, or if you want to share the room with guys, or if you want to like go to like a mixed room. I personally always stay in mixed rooms just because I feel like in female rooms the vibe is very quiet or very weird because everyone is just like in their own space. But in mixed rooms, it's always a good time. People are always like open-minded, and out of the blue everyone starts talking and laughing with each other and talking about their life experiences. It's really fun, and you know, you get a more like relaxed vibe. But if you're a little bit more shy and if it's your first time, I would definitely recommend going the female. I mean, I'm assuming that you're a girl, but if you're a guy, just stay in the male room. This summer, the hostels were crazy expensive. And it was almost the same amount of money to stay in a hostel versus staying in my own room in someone's house. I had decided to stay in Airbnb rooms, which is another option if you're looking for accommodation. So basically, Airbnb rooms is Airbnb. You're renting someone's house. Sometimes it's actually just a house with different rooms, and then you're just renting one, and then other people are renting other houses. And other times you're actually staying with the local. I absolutely loved my experience renting Airbnb rooms. Chef's kiss, honestly. But whether you choose the Airbnb rooms or you stay in hostels, definitely check out their locations, guys, because a place can be really cheap but really far from the city center, and that will cost you transportation all the time. So always have that in mind. That's why it's always better to kind of like stay in hostels, because they're always in the city center, and so you kind of like just walk every single day. You don't have to pay for transport or anything. I actually didn't want to touch on this, but there's other option for accommodation, which is called couch surfing. I've never done it. Basically, you're just crashing at someone's house and you sleep on their couch. I personally, as a girl, I've never done it. I wouldn't recommend because I've never done it, but I've heard good stories. If you wanna check it out, definitely check it out, and it's for free. You sleep in someone's house for free and they just host you. They give you like a couch. I don't know, guys. It's an option. It's an option if you want to check it out and if you're in a very low budget. Okay, when it comes to apps, I would advise you guys to download the Interrail app itself. You have to have that app in your phone, because that way you can also see which train is next. You can like download your ticket for the guide to validate. You can also like book your travel days. It's very important to have that app, because your ticket is literally on the app unless you get the physical copy. Even if you have the physical copy, I think you need the app to see which train is next. Definitely get the app. It's very important. The next app is Google Maps. I know everyone has Google Maps. I think everyone does. Make sure you download offline maps. This is literally gonna save your life. It literally saved my life so many times. So as soon as you have your itinerary and as soon as you have like the places that you want to visit, make sure to go on Google Maps and search the city, and you kind of like download the whole map of that city. So just in case you run out of data, you don't have internet connection or anything, you will always know how to go home. That's very important, you guys. The minute I know I'm gonna travel, way before I catch my plane, I already have all the offline maps ready. Just because I also like plan like the attractions in advance. But besides that, download the offline maps. Another app that I would advise you guys to download is City Mapper. It kind of works the same as Google Maps, but City Mapper has like different transportation options. Like if you want to go from one place to another, they will give you like the option how to get the trains, how to find a bike, how to find a scooter, how to find a taxi. So City Mapper is kind of like the same of Google Maps, but I honestly think the City Mapper is always updated. You know, I absolutely trust City Mapper, so definitely download that. My favorite app, Trip BFF. Guys, this app is literally the best thing that was ever created to solo travelers. It's basically a solo travel social media app where you meet other solo travelers, and basically what happens, you put in your profile when you're gonna be at a certain destination, and I don't know, I think the algorithm kind of like gives you a result of the people that are gonna be in the same destination, and that way you guys can connect through the app, you can see each other's Instagram, you can like talk. Let's say my next trip is to Barcelona. I'm literally gonna go on the app and put in my profile that I'm gonna be in Barcelona from this day to this day, and then the app is gonna like show me who else is gonna be in Barcelona those days. And so I'm gonna like, you know, look for someone that I'm like, okay, and then I can just text that person and be like, hi, I know you're gonna be in Barcelona at this time, me too. I literally met a girl just like that. We met through Trip BFF and we spent the whole day together in Prague during my Interrail trip. It was really fun because I know that solo traveling can get a little bit boring, a little bit lonely. Definitely download if you're in the mood to meet like new people, have different experiences. There's like a lot of groups trips as well. Even if you want to travel somewhere but you still don't have the trip plan, you don't want to go alone, you can literally create a group and say like, oh, I'm looking for girls to travel with me to Southeast Asia. Anyways, that's all for the apps that I used, and I'm sure there are more, but those are the ones like the main ones that I used all the time. And I'm gonna share with you guys some of the tips that I have. I am sure you guys have heard me talk about this non-stop throughout the whole journey, is to travel slow. I had that mindset of like, okay, I'm doing Interrail, I have to like be in every city 2 days and then move to a new one and then do this, and then guys, if you don't rest, your body will give you no other option but to rest. It's crazy. Like, you have to have downtime. You have to have at least one day where you just sit down, just go to a cafe, you have a nice meal. I think this applies a little bit more if you're by yourself. I honestly think that if I was with other people, I would have kept going. I honestly think when you're around people, you can like push each other to like continue exploring and doing other things. When you're by yourself, I think the exhaustion really hits, and it hits really hard because you get from like being tired to being lonely to being bored to wanting to go home. So definitely travel a little bit slow in a very sustainable way. Just enjoy each and every destination. Keep in mind that traveling off season is better than traveling peak season. I personally went interrailing in June, which is right at the beginning of peak season, and prices are high, places are crowded, and it was really hot. So definitely have that in mind. If you're in a low budget, definitely go off season. You're gonna spend a little bit less. Hostels are really cheap. If you're feeling very social and if you want to go meet people, if you really want the Interrail experience, definitely stay in hostels, you guys. Be open to meeting new people. Spark a conversation every time you can. Don't be creepy. Every time you can, don't be creepy, but like every time you see someone that like looks inviting and friendly, just talk to that person. You never know. Definitely be open, talk to people. I'm talking about hostels, I'm not talking about in the streets. Don't be smiley to everyone, especially if you're traveling by yourself. Focus on experiences more than luxury. This is something that I've always swear by every time I'm traveling. I know the Instagram has that, TikTok or Instagram, whatever, they have that thing of like the difference between vacationer and traveler. I am definitely a traveler. When it comes to traveling now, especially being in my 20s, I really want to have more experiences. And so even when it comes to my budget, I spent way more on like kind of like do new things and experiences. And like if you want to go to a boat tour, definitely go. And if you want to like go to a concert, that would be really cool. And the last thing, which is probably the most important part, the budget. Honestly, I've heard people that did the same thing and spent like 2 times more of what I spent. And I also seen on YouTube as well as TikTok of people that spent literally half of what I spent. And so the trip is what you make it, is the budget that you have and how you want to do it and when you want to do it, which is very important because the prices are influenced by the time. Staying in Airbnb rooms, I stayed in one hostel that was in Venice, having 2 meals a day and having a lot of experiences in every single destination. I spent 1,600 euros. That's like a very approximate amount. The things that are included are accommodation, my pocket money, which was like the food and the experiences and everything, the Interrail ticket itself, as well as the plane ticket from Lisbon to Berlin. And the only thing that was not included in that price is my return ticket, which was crazy expensive. And if you watch the journey, you probably know that I actually ended up interrupting the trip towards the end. And for that reason, I actually had to pay for my return ticket a little bit last minute. But to be honest, I had that in mind because if you kind of like go on a trip without a return ticket, you kind of like have to be prepared for anything and everything. I'm kind of like thinking if I forgot anything. I don't think I did. I hope I didn't, but if you have any questions, definitely comment down below. I will be so happy to answer them and help you guys plan your Interrail trip or backpacking trip around Europe. And I really hope this video was helpful. I kind of like just share the things that I did and I learned throughout my journey. I'm sure there are more things that you have questions about. With that being said, you guys, I just want to say thank you so much for following along the journey and for commenting, for texting me on Instagram. And it was really nice to kind of like share this moment with you guys, inspire you guys to also do the same. There will be other trips coming up, definitely solo trips, and I love you so much. Thank you so much. If you haven't watched the other Interrail vlogs, definitely check it out, the playlist, and I will see you guys on the next one.